School districts across Virginia have had a very tough time preparing next year's budget. The reason is a requirement from the General Assembly regarding the Virginia Retirement System, or VRS. Because VRS is underfunded, the lawmakers passed a bill to require school employees to contribute 5% toward their retirement. But lawmakers also required school divisions to offset that with a 5% raise. That'll cost Rockingham County Schools nearly $5 million. And joining us to discuss the issue is Lowell Falk, Vice Chair of Rockingham County School Board. Thanks for joining us, Lowell.
Glad to be here.
Now, Lowell, do you consider this VRS issue an unfunded mandate from the state?
Well, I think it's safe to say, Bob, that anytime the federal government or the state government requires something from a locality that they have to do, and then the locality has to find the money to pay for that mandate, then that falls under the term of an unfunded mandate.
Well, not only do you have this VRS increase to the tune of through actually having to cover the raise so that the VRS increase doesn't really hurt the employees with the raise that you have to cover. It's a $5 million obligation. Not only do you have that, but you'll receive less federal funding next year too, right?
Well, yes, that there are some cuts in federal funding, one of which is was through the federal jobs bill that was distributed among the employees as a bonus. So that wasn't planned into the operating budget. It was a one-time expense. The system knew that it would be a one-time expense, so they treated it as such. So that doesn't hurt as much as what is happening at the state level.
Okay. So the Rockingham County School Board is asking the county supervisors for $6 million more in local funding. And the county budget does fund most of that, but it also calls for tax hikes. So somebody asked me today, how do you answer a question when folks, this was a county resident, said, how do folks that don't want to have their taxes go up to pay for other people's retirement, how do you answer that?
Well, basically what I would say there is this is not something that the Board of Supervisors or the Rockingham County School Board has chosen. We didn't ask for any of this. This was mandated by the state in order to say that basically they were funding increases here and there. Mm-hmm. So what we're looking at, Bob, is since 2008, we are operating a system with $10 million less funding from the state already. What this would amount to, if we had to absorb this in our budget, would be another $5 million cut to our operating, our ability to operate. So $15 million over just a couple years, that's hard to absorb. And so many, you figure $5 million a year cut so far, we're have 100 fewer instructional positions than we did several years ago. That was taken up by attrition, but class sizes have increased. You reach a point where you're cutting into things that you're cutting into the bone. Mm-hmm. And so when people don't want local taxes to go up, they have to talk to their state legislators and tell them to stop doing these sorts of things and require, the budget. I'm so glad that the Board of Supervisors could and the local taxpayers can and would consider helping us out like this, because we're talking about closing schools if we don't.
Mm-hmm. Now, what do lawmakers from our area say about this VRS increase? I mean, surely you have their ear. Don't you tell them, hey, this is an unfunded mandate. You guys are just making us raise taxes because you don't want to do it.
Well, basically, we spoke to Delegate Wilt and Delegate Landis back in December, or it was thereabouts. And I've had the opportunity, Delegate Wilt did give me the opportunity to speak with him just recently. And I laid it out. The House of Delegates members aren't aware in the detail that we are, because it's what we have to deal with. And he listened very intently, and he was very interested, somewhat surprised. And my hope is that he will carry that message to Richmond and say, we got to stop putting so much pressure on our localities.
Mm-hmm. But I guess that doesn't you don't really hope for things to change between now and the passage of this budget, do you?
Bob, I was on the school board for 8 years, a number of years back, and I've watched the budget situation develop in Richmond over the years. The House submits a budget, the Senate submits a budget, and whichever the lower amount is, when they compromise, they always compromise to the lower end of it. So I don't expect anything different this year, really. My hope is there that they might, but we're doing all we can from this level.
All right, very good. Well, Lowell Falk, the Vice Chair of the Rockingham County School Board, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Aubrey?
Scattered showers.